So, awesome. That is up and running. So welcome to everyone. Thank you for joining us on a lovely Tuesday night. Hopefully you're staying nice and warm wherever you are. And we have spent the last 8 years developing new technology for the farm, for on-farm wool testing, which we will go through now. This might be familiar to some of you that are on board, or something will be new to others. And so we will go through and tell a little bit about who we are and how we came to develop the technology that we have today. So first of all, there was an opportunity that we were approached to find a way to provide some objective on-farm testing, especially around the micron. And this was to help sort out bales or sort out clips. And some of the benefits that we found talking to growers over the years was that there was an opportunity for faster, smarter, or more profitable data-driven decisions. And this came along with those who were side sampling, that were sending results, or sending samples away rather, and having to wait for up to 6 weeks to get those results back from those side samples. This allows you to be able to do this, the testing on the farm when you need it. Rising input costs at the moment, especially in some areas that are being drought stricken, where they're having to destock their flock, and to be able to maintain the premium animals, having a tool that you can select and be able to understand which are those premium animals at a glance is an advantage to your business. Also taking advantage of market volatility, depending on where you sit in your micron, particularly those in the finer end, being able to separate out any premium lines that you might have within your flock, and then therefore minimizing any discounting that might apply to the rest of your clip. Taking advantage of any sort of misalignment, or taking control rather of your testing. So testing when you need it, not having to adjust your workflow around, classer availability or classer contractor availability. As I've already mentioned, improving your clip revenues with immediate micron results for fleece sorting, and also the ability to actually test more of your flock. So this is feedback that we've gotten from growers in the past, of not having to be limited to a percentage of your flock because of the labor cost involved and the testing cost involved. You now have a tool that allows you to test any time that you want, and you're not having to send large amounts of wool away in order to get tested, because it requires only a small amount of sample. Now, who we are. So Ben and I make up two of the three main proponents of the Woven Optics team. All of us come from a research background. So Ben and I are both in medical research, and Hayden, our software engineer, is also in AI and machine learning, especially around vision, computer vision research background. Our mission is to provide a tool that allows the wool industry to be able to have real-time on-farm fiber testing. And our focus has always been on accuracy, as well as speed and profitability rather, for the end user as well. Beyond that, we have a very experienced board that have supported us throughout the years. Mr. Tom Ashby, who is a 4th generation merino ram breeder and consults quite heavily both locally and overseas, with many years experience in the wool industry. Mr. Gary Lyons, who is now the chair of Heiniger Australia, who is on our board, as well as business consultant Hugo Lemessurier. Between those three gentlemen, there is an extensive amount of business and wool business and ag tech business background, and we're very fortunate to have partnered with Heiniger Australia, who are also our distribution partners. Now, for those who may or may not have heard of us before, what do we do? So our first sort of flagship technology is the Woven Optics Wool Scanner. Effectively, it is a portable handheld micron testing device, which is able to measure the mean fiber diameter, as well as standard deviation, coefficient of variance, and comfort factor within minutes, using high-end optical sensors and also machine learning or AI. And this is what the device looks like in its parts. And there's an example of Ben using it in the backpack, testing on the animal under low stress conditions, I guess, in this particular image here. How it works, very simply put, it has an EID reader in the head, so it scans the electronic ear tag. You then take a fleece sample from your animal, depending on wherever you normally do your testing, or if you have the opportunity and the time, you can actually sample across the whole fleece. You then image along the length of the staple, and the device then analyzes those images and displays the results within about 2 to 3 seconds. So when we say real time, we mean in that moment. At the end of your session, at the end of the day, you can then upload that data, and then you can look and explore those either session data through across that whole mob that's been tested, or you can go into the individual animal results and look at what is happening for that animal within that moment there. This is just, I guess, a more in-depth close-up of that image that I showed before. You have a histogram that you can see for the session. You can also rank your mobs, so you can go from the finest or the coarsest, or if you want to set a cull limit for your animals, you can do so, and then all that is exportable into a CSV file that you can then integrate into other management software. We also have the ability to look at individual animal data, and the future, as you do more and more testing and you scan the animal's ID, and you can have that RFID across the lifetime of that animal, you can then start to track how that animal's micron is tracking over the course of several years. So that's one of the other benefits of being able to do this, and you can do that for your whole flock if need be, especially for those who are breeding. You can create reports, and then this is an example of what the CSV file looks like. And so you can have your histogram reports for individual data and looking at animals rather than looking at their metrics. And then your CSV file is simply ranked by RFID number. You also have a session number and a date stamp, as well as all the statistics for those animals and the number of images that were incorporated into each of those tests. The benefit of that is to be able to know your mob at a glance, looking at the histograms, understanding the individual animal, looking at quality checks of the results, seeing how the animal tracks over time. Like I said, you rank your animals, destocking your flock if you want to have a cull set, and you can export it in minutes and integrate it into your other management software. This is not another management tool. We are a data collection tool that is meant to be easily integrated into other systems and existing workflow. In terms of how accurate it is, we've previously had the equipment calibrated using IWTO0 methods, which is the kind of standard calibration samples that are required, or the calibration that's required for all laboratory equipment such as OFTA and laser scan. And if you were to compare us to those calibrated samples, we had an R-square valued of 0.996. And if you imagine 1 is perfect, we're sitting at 0.996. Our average difference when we're compared to when we compare ourselves to laser scan, and laser scan being set at 1,000 snippet count, and our data being collected from 3 clean images, we're plus or minus 0.6 of a micron variation from laser scan when you're looking at ranges between 14 to 23 microns. We've tested the system across different breeds of sheep. We can look at also testing across clip, so like looking at grabs from different bale lots, and also different fiber types such as alpaca. We're exploring into mohair and other similar fiber types like that. The image on the left-hand side is a 4x4, which shows the mean, standard deviation, coefficient, and comfort factor. Is an example of what it looks like on the screen on the device when you're capturing that data. And the graph on the left is just a representation of how our data performs when we're comparing us to laser scan using those calibrated reference samples. Here's an example of a snippet test that we did. So this was some samples had been sent to us from some ultrafine growers. The reason for this being that a lot of the calibrated samples only stop at about 14 or 15 micron, and they wanted to see how we performed at a lower range. And so you can see that there's some samples there as low as 11.9 and 12. And what we found was that when we looked at same core snippets that they had tested on their flea scan in shed, they were sent to us. We cleaned them, we tested them, and we compared them. You could see that when you have sound wool, so wool that's quite sort of even across the length of the fiber, that we were only up to about 0.3 off of a micron, with 2 of the results that you see there in bold being identical between the 2 different systems. Tender wool, as you'd expect, has a lot more variation, and that variation wouldn't just be between our systems with flea scan, it would also be with any other system as well, just due to the nature of the high standard deviations that come with tender wool as well. So On our website, we have a couple of different case studies, but I thought I would just quickly go through one just to give you an example from some of the conversations we've had with growers, especially during our trial period. And this is a hypothetical case study that we were going to go through and test every single animal that was being shorn. Unfortunately, we were confounded by weather events that did not allow that to happen. But when we ran through the numbers and looked at how we would actually put this to use, we wanted to see what would it look like if we used woven optics to pull out some finer lines. So this particular grower in South Australia has an sort of a mob average of about 16 micron. They produce about 59.5 thousand kilograms of clean wool annually, across about 20,000 animals. And we looked at if we were to use woven optics wool scanner to measure every fleece at shearing, so that they could extract about, they were saying that they needed to extract about 37% at 14.9 micron, which then would have discounted the rest of the 63% of that clip to 16.8. We were looking at moving from lab testing site samples of only 4,000 hoggets, which they normally do, to now testing every single animal. They ran a six-stand shearing shed, which that meant they would have to use 2 woven optic scanners and 2 subscriptions. And we calculated this over a 5-year period. And what we found was that their return on investment just within the first year, if you were to amortize that over the 5-year period, was a return of 1.52. And within 5 years, they had a return on investment in 10.02 rather. And so if you want to see the calculations in more detail behind that, please feel free to reach out to us. Otherwise, that will be put up on our website shortly. Another example of what a potential economic impact using woven optics would have, and this is just looking at site sampling for site sampling. So overall reduction in lab costs or in labor costs if you're having the device to do site sampling on site rather than sending samples away. Now, this is this graph rather is looking at what it would normally cost you using the current AWTA price of $1.60 per test, and just looking at different numbers of samples over the time or over each year. And so you have the number of samples, the price per test, the total spent in a single year versus the total spent in 5 years. When you compare that to the woven optic system, where you get 10,000 tests per year, that cost brings the price of the test down to 38 cents per test, and you're spending about $3,790 per year, or $18,950 within 5 years. So this would strongly benefit, a single device would strongly benefit anyone who's already testing around the 2,500 site samples per year and above. Below that, it doesn't mean that you're not benefiting from having the device. It means that you have the opportunity to share that with your neighbor. If you're part of a co-op, then you could also share that expense of the device and then have those tests split amongst various people. And so you still be able to get that benefit from using the system rather than sending those samples away. Now, what do you get in the system when you purchase the woven optics wool scanner? Well, you get the scanner itself. It comes with a computer module and a long life battery that lasts for over 8 hours, including all of the cables that are required. An ergonomic backpack so to make it fully portable and be able to use it anywhere on site. The hard case for storing, training and technical support, the dashboard to do the data and flock analysis, software updates, and of course the 10,000 tests per year. In terms of who to contact, if you've got anyone in your region, you can see on the slide, that would be the best people to contact in order to get a demo. If you have any technical questions, outside of, if you don't have an opportunity to stay on board, and you want to contact either myself or Ben to ask any technical questions after this call, feel free to email us or reach out to us. But this is just a list of people in your area. So that brings us to the end of the presentation. We shall stop sharing. Okay. Excellent. I'll just have a look to see if there's any questions so far.
All good so far.
All good so far. Excellent. Well, I have a short video that I've put together that we had gone out to Turret Field with Ben a couple of weeks ago to do some filming. The intention was to do some filming on the farm in the race. Nature had other ideas, but I will play you. It's a 6-minute video just going through how to put the system together, how to do the testing, and how we would intend to use it otherwise. If you have any feedback as to what you think would improve and what other information you would like included, please let us know, and we can incorporate that into future webinars that will also be recorded and sent out. So without further ado, I will move to the video. Let's see if I can do the sharing again. Entire screen. And I'll have to check with Ben to make sure the volume comes through here. Okay.
I will quickly demonstrate how to put together the woven optics wall scanner. The computer module comes with 2 cables, and the other is the data cable that plugs into the bottom of the wall scanner. The cable for the battery goes into the DC out slot on the battery pack, and the USB connector, 4-pin connector, goes into the bottom of the scanner by aligning the 4 pins and the line together as so. Push in, twist the collar until it locks into position. There's no need to over tighten this. You can then power this all up by holding the power button for 2 seconds and then toggling through by double clicking until we are at 20 volt. You will then see the screen light up and it will tell us once it is ready and loaded. Once we are on this landing page, your system is now ready to be used. To use this system in the backpack comes with 2 slots. We've got a front pocket and a back pocket. The back pocket is for placing the battery, which slots in like so and should sit comfortably in the back. The front pocket that has Velcro strips attached is for placing the computer module with the heatsink facing outwards or to the front of the bag, which then we can use the Velcro straps to hold it nice and tightly in place, and then close up the bag with the USB cable out to then allow us to wear the backpack and move around freely with the device. All right, let's go outside. We have our backpack on. We have our handheld scanner ready to go on our little holster. Let's go and do some testing. Hi, Brett. Hi. So the woven optics wall scanner was designed to be fully portable and used anywhere on farm, whether it's in a race, in a pen, in a shearing shed, or in the comfort of your own home, testing your side samples at your leisure. The woven optics wall scanner comes with an EID reader in the head that allows you to scan the EID tags of the animals before capturing a sample or taking a sample from the animal, either on mid-side or pin bone or anywhere along the fleece, to test along the length of the staple and so from here we can just take a small staple from there. That's even that is a lot. That's all right, excellent. We've cut a sample that is approximately 1 inch long, and we have obviously the dirtier end, which is on the outside of the animal, and where it's cleaner here closer to the skin. We recommend that you capture 3 images along the length of the staple to give you a good representation of the average micron diameter for that full staple length. You can either test greasy or clean, but our recommended method is to clean the sample and to remove any excess dirt and grease. To do this, we use lint-free tissue, which is what the Kim wipes are. Place the sample on 1/2. Use the isopropanol as a degreasing agent. Spray along the length of the sample as like so. Fold the tissue paper over, and then using your thumbs and forefingers, gently rub along the staple to remove any dirt and grease. And then grabbing that outer edge as an anchor point, you can then gently pull along and clean along the length of the fiber without pulling too hard and not damaging the fibers like so. From here, you can then start to separate and tease the fibers out. What you'd want to see is individual fibers so that you can see those individual fibers on the camera. We can then place that staple across, starting at one end and centering it in the middle by using this little divot here as a point of reference so that you're always in the middle of the field of view. And this should now allow you to capture an image by so. And then so long as you can see individual fibers, like you can see here on the screen, then we're good to go. We want to have a good number of fibers across the whole screen. If we're happy with that, we then accept the image. If not, you can reject, move the sample and try again. So if you accept it, it'll then prompt you to take a second image. You can then slightly open the lid to slide your sample through to the next position, keeping it centered. Capture again, next image. If we accept that, we're happy that we can see individual fibers. We're not too bunched up. We have a good representation. We accept that. It'll prompt us to take the last of the 3 in the series. Once again, we open the lid slightly, move the staple along. Last time, capture that image again. And if we're not happy, we can then reject that, move the staple, try once more until we get an adequate image. If we accept this image for this test, once you've done the 3rd image capture, it'll bring up your results as so. So we have our mean fiber diameter, standard deviation, coefficient of variance, and comfort factor. And that is it in terms of how to use the system.
Okay, so that concludes the last or the end of our formal presentation. If there are any questions, now would be the time to put them up there, and we can answer them, and that way everyone can hear if there's any inquiries. And while I'm waiting for people to put up any questions, if there's other case studies that we're looking at that are on the website, and then please feel free to have a look. We'll be updating them as often as we can. We also have videos in terms of how to use the system. We provide the training for those people who have the device. And if you have any queries, like I said, please feel free to speak to the Heiniger team. I'll just see who is on board at the moment. Okay, so
perhaps, I don't know.
Yes.
Can we both get on there, or is that? Oh yeah, we can do it that way. So I just wanted to say thank you for that, Vicky. And perhaps there's questions coming, perhaps there's not. Either way, I've got a couple here which we've just spent the weekend at the Australian Wool and Sheep Show, Sheep and Wool Show in Bendigo. So just got back yesterday. And so there's a lot of questions that came through to us then. And so I've got a couple of more common ones here. So barring any other questions coming through, I thought I'd just run through a couple of these as well.
Sure.
Not to put you on the spot too much. So I guess first and foremost, just because it's not been explicitly covered, is how much is the unit?
So the unit, with everything that I showed that came as part of it, is 14,990 ex GST, and that includes all of the hardware as well as the 10,000 tests. Okay, that's pretty standard at the moment.
Pretty standard. All right, awesome. And so you've spoken to this a little bit, but certainly one of the questions we get quite a lot, I know, is can I use it in the shed? You know, can I use it in the race? Where do people who are using it or who've had a chance to play with it, where do people typically see themselves using it?
That's a great question.
So far.
Yeah, so depending on who you talk to and how they want to, and how people sort of envision themselves using it, we've said at the moment what we have come to understand with the trials that we've done, with the in-shed testing that we've done, each test from, if you're using what we say a 3 clean image, which means the process that I showed you on the video, which is to degrease the sample in order to get a more accurate result, so that you're not having the grease on the fiber, you know, adding sort of any error to the to the way in which it's being measured, that takes about a minute. Now, a minute per test on someone who has had the adequate training and feels confident in being able to use it, which, like I said, we provide all that training, which means that a minute per test, I would say comfortably up to a 4-stand shed, you should be able to manage a single unit. Anything beyond that, then people tend to think that they may require a second unit in order to do that. Outside of that, if you don't want to be doing it under the time pressure of a shed, it's been suggested to us from people that they would use it the day before, so bringing the animals into the race or bringing the animals inside to prepare them for shearing, where they would then test those animals under sort of less time constraints in order to be able to get that data and then upload that data into a stick reader so they can sort those animals out during a period of shearing, so they're not being encumbered by having to do the test in that time. Others have suggested doing it during crutching or simply just doing normal side sampling as they normally would do, and then sitting down at home and doing the data collection, in the comfort of their office, so to speak, so that they have their data when it's required.
Excellent, thank you. And just thinking on that as well, when it comes to use case, actually using it on the ground, I know we talk about and have always talked about, you sort of go home at the end of the day and you can plug it in and upload your data and then access it. Something that certainly came up a lot on the weekend in Bendigo was the question, can you use it in the shed? Can you get the results in the shed live on your computer?
So that was a good one. So all feedback like that is very welcome, because we're looking to build something that is for the industry. So we need to make sure that it's something that is going to be well integrated. At the time, because the first objective was to substitute, I guess, on farm, on site side sampling, and we're looking at measuring along the length of the staple. Sorry, can you repeat that question?
Can you use it in the shed?
Can you use it in a shed?
Get the data
get the
results in the
data.
shed.
Oh, we're not on the tangent. Apologies, everyone. So some of the questions in terms of the real-time results, yes. So you do get the results on the screen of the device, as you saw. In terms of pushing data onto other systems, for example, if you have a screen up in the shed where you're showing the results, especially for people who use in-shed fleece testing, will be very familiar with this, where they'll have a TV screen inside and they'll display the last lot of results. We can't do that at the moment as we speak. It's something that has been asked of us and is being added to the list of features for future rollout. Integrating it into a order drafter, for example, we've been asked whether or not we can push data onto an order drafter when other wool and animal classing is being done, and so that you can incorporate it during that period of time. In real time, not at the moment. Retrospectively, yes, you can. If you have that data preloaded onto that system, you can then include that into your order drafting. But for the time being, the real-time results come from the screen as you're doing the testing, meaning the screen of the device itself. But we are also exploring other ways to be able to manage that differently within a shed, to be able to show that onto a TV screen, for example, or push it through Bluetooth to some other system.
Brilliant, thank you. I just have two more questions and then I'll leave you alone. So following on from that, if you're not an owner yourself, or even if you are an owner, or a grower yourself on the land, what kind of situations, perhaps you don't want to buy one outright for yourself, perhaps you don't do enough testing to justify that for yourself, or you'd prefer to have someone come in and do it for you, what kind of arrangements are available?
Yeah, that's a really good one. So recently we've seen an uptake from brokers, so stock agents or wool handlers purchasing units in order to use it for their clients, to be able to service their clients. The other option is that we've had a couple of grower groups also purchase one that they'll be sharing amongst themselves. That does come with a caveat that obviously there's, and there's means and ways to manage this, but there's the opportunity to also be able to see each other's data. And so long as that is not a problem for those who are sharing the device, there is no reason that they can't have a unit which they share amongst themselves. People are looking at using it with their neighbor and just sharing the expense with their neighbor. And then they're using the 10,000 tests between them. That is also an option. And then also if you're a wool classer, or a broker and you want to add value to your clients, then you can provide that as a service as well. So there's those different options.
Thank you. And so my last question is, and for those, because this is an internationally open open forum, and I know there are some internationals in the audience. So I wanted to ask, where is it currently available, and are there plans to release it elsewhere?
Yeah. So currently it's available in Australia and New Zealand. When there is plans to go internationally rather, but because it is new technology, we want to ensure that we have dotted our I's and crossed our T's, and that all the systems are running smoothly, and that we can service everything here locally, and then understanding what that serviceability would look like for our international clients. And so more than likely the rollout would probably be within the next 12 months to go internationally, provided we can hit the required targets in order to enable us to move into an international market. And some of those are usually around compliance and or serviceability. So these are the main two things that we need to be able to ensure that we can provide the best service for customers and clients once they have purchased the unit. So they're not just walking away with something that if something goes wrong, that they don't have the ability to have that serviced locally.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you. So it's been quiet on the questions front, so it's just been me for now. And unless you have anything else, I think we're done for questions. If anyone's got any questions, please feel free to throw them in. But otherwise, that's probably a wrap for questions.
Okay. Excellent. All right. Thank you, everybody. We appreciate your support. And if you don't feel comfortable sending any questions here in the forum, or you're not sure how to, but you wish to talk to us after, our contact details are all over our website, and we will get a recording of this session sent to you as well. So feel free to share it amongst all your friends and neighbours. And we appreciate all your support, and then reach out to Heiniger if you have any inquiries around sales, and any technical support, come direct to Woven Optics, and we'll help you the best we can, and keep that feedback coming in so that we can develop technology that it will be around in the wool industry for a very long time. On that note, I'll let you all get back to your evening, and thank you so much. Good night.